Julius Caesar, aka Julius Caesar.
This guy right here.
His period of political reign, and what he did to benefit Rome.
Can you tell me Julius Caesar's birthday?
I would say 1625.
False.
Caesar was born July 13th, 100 BC, on a Saturday.
He had two sisters, Julia and Julia.
How creative.
He claimed to be a descendant of Venus.
There's very little known about Caesar's childhood. Although education was aimed towards the Roman adults, the children often learned by observing their fathers and then repeating the tasks. Caesar, however, was taught by a slave from Alexandria because his father was often away on military services.
Strong physical labor, skills with weapons, and riding horses were all essential skills for joining the military. While studying on the island of Roths, Caesar fell in love with a beautiful girl named Cornelia. She was only 13 and he was 18, but they got married. Unfortunately, she died giving birth to their daughter Julia.
15 years later, in 67 BC, he married Pompeia, but divorced her because of rumors during the riots up on a dam.
Only 10 years later, in 59 BC, Caesar marries yet again to a woman named Calpurnia. Who was Julius Caesar married to?
I would say Cleopatra.
Caesar was never actually married to Cleopatra, but he did have an affair with her over a course of 2 years. And also, they had a child together called Caesarion. That's where we get the term C-section, standing for Caesarean section, which is named after Julius's son. I guess someone didn't really like Caesar that much because he was forced into exile all the way in Africa, and when he tried to return home to Rome, he was captured by some mighty pirates, and they refused to let him go until they were given a large ransom.
His political career became more serious when he was sent to Spain in 61 BC as a procurator.
In 60 BC, Caesar returned from Spain and joined his allies Pompey and Crassus, and they formed a loose coalition called the First Triumvirate, which was referred to by his enemies as the three-headed monster because they were all in power at the same time.
When Caesar felt like he wasn't getting enough power, his allies agreed to let him govern over 3 provinces for the period of 5 years.
During this time, he was able to travel around the area and recruited an army that marched for the first time abroad.
Along the way, Caesar had many small victories that he made sure made their way back to Rome, where they were read aloud in the streets, instilling fear in all of the people.
By this point, Crassus had died in a small battle. However, Pompey remained back in Rome, and when he heard of Caesar returning, he feared it even more because of the power that Caesar had built over the last 5 years.
Pompey, back in Rome, sent a warning to Caesar to drop his army, leave them where they're at, and come back to Rome empty-handed and alone. Being the stubborn guy he is, said, "Nah, I'm gonna come back with my army anyways. I don't care what you say, Pompey." So he did.
By marching his army on Rome, Caesar started the second civil war Rome has known. And also, well, he came in with his big, huge army. He kind of freaked out Pompey because he had all this power now. And so Pompey and the Senate, they just kind of like got out of there. They're like, we're leaving, we're done, we don't want to deal with you, Caesar. So they left and fled. But guess what? Caesar and his army, they chased him. They searched for Pompey and they looked everywhere and they followed him right on out of Rome.
Eventually, Pompey ends up in Asia where he met Cleopatra, who, by the way, was married to her brother. And let's say she wasn't really fond of neither of them.
Cleopatra has Pompey killed, and then tells Caesar that he can come and retrieve the body.
This is where we see the affair between Caesar and Cleopatra beginning. She also has Caesar help her to kill her brother, who is also her husband, remember? So Caesar helps her kill her husband, and then her and him continue this affair for 2 years. And that's when they have their child, Caesarion. Caesar returned to Rome in 46 BC, where he claimed the throne for life as the ruler. He called himself dictator. While he was dictator, he centralized the military and political functions. He confiscated property from conservatives in order to give that property to the men of his army as a reward. He gave citizenship
to peoples in imperial provinces, and he launched large-scale building projects that would give jobs to the poor.
However, a lot of people did not agree with his new ideas as ruler because they felt that he was gaining too much power and becoming a king.
They didn't like kings.
Who was that girl?
Who was she? Who was that?
The Roman elites got so fed up with Caesar's new reforms that on March 15th, 44 BC, at a meeting of the Senate, they snuck daggers in their togas and stabbed Caesar at least 23 times while he was standing at the statue of Pompey. They didn't really know what they wanted to do with the Republic after they killed Caesar. They didn't have long-term ideas. They just kind of thought, maybe it's a good idea if we kill him, so we have no structure whatsoever. And so that ended up in 13 years of civil conflict amongst the Romans.
Alright folks, that's all we have for you today on this episode of Julius Caesar, a great aristocrat, a natural-born leader, and a brilliant and decisive military commander. I hope you came away with some more knowledge on this brilliant fellow, and we'll see you next time. That's it. Thank you.